in our intro as soon as we go live because that's what I do.
That does seem to be the way of things. We have an intro. Mostly it's really just there to like give us the like ability to know what needs to be said so people like know what to do when they come to the episode. I think the first thing that we should say is don't shake your beverage full of ice and liquid because that'll really ruin the audio quality when we go in later on. So I should probably rethink that one.
Hey, you are so... Okay. We used to repeat the beginning word for word, and now we just wing it.
We're just having some fun. Anyway, y'all, I'm your newbie for the week. My name's Noah, if you hadn't met me before.
And I'm your host, TigerEyes45, and today we are once again learning how does Noah put it? A little bit more of TigerEyes45's backstory. Because we're going to be taking a look at and discussing my favorite movie of all goddamn time.
Your views on this movie feel like they've inflated since we like first stumbled upon it as a suggestion like a week ago.
Well, no, because even in like all my and like our old not theater professor, our old screenwriting professor can back this up. I have always declared the Country Bears movie as not the best movie of all time, but my fucking favorite. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. The Country Bears, the Disney movie.
The Disney movie, a 2002 adaptation of the 10-minute animatronic show at Disneyland, the Country Bear Jamboree.
Which I knew existed, but I had never bothered watching till today, and it's kind of fucking horrifying. I'm one who gets scared of animatronics. Like, Freddy Fazbear never felt scary to me because of that shit. But, yeah, no, that's kind of a horror show.
It really is funny. And it's not even like Fazbear is based off of this one. Fazbear is based off of, like,
Chuck E.
the
Cheese or
chain
some shit.
store version of this.
Okay.
Oh, man.
So, what is the Country Bears?
Yeah, let's talk about what is the Country Bears. But first off, I just want to, like, let's talk a little bit. I'm sorry. I know that we've got, like, a process here, but I just want to know, how the heck did you come across this thing, first and foremost? Why did you catch this? The Country Bears movie from 2002. The thing made, like, half of its budget back at the box office. It was a total flop.
And part of that budget, my great-grandparents definitely contributed to. So, I know I talk about them a lot on this show, but I cannot undersell how much of an influence my great-grandparents had on me growing up. And
Okay.
part of that was they bought every single Disney movie that was ever made because they thought all Disney movies were automatically kid-friendly and that it would be good to have because their grandkids are growing up and they're starting to have great-grandkids. So they bought all the old ones for like my mom and her cousins, and then they kept buying all the early 2000 ones for me and my cousins.
What? Okay.
So they just bought everything Disney ever made as far as
So
movies go.
So they were okay. So they're buying literally everything Disney ever made on VHS in the early 2000s, which is exactly when Disney started churning out literally everything they possibly could have onto VHS, including some things that ought not to have seen the light of day.
Yeah, basically. So
Which is your favorite Cinderella sequel?
honestly, I like 3 more than 2.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my favorite one.
I only saw 3 the one time. So I have stronger memories of 2, but I don't really want to stand by 2 because it's one of the ones that's just like 3 episodes of a canceled TV show.
So,
Except it wasn't actually a canceled TV show.
and the same that happened to the Atlantis second movie as
Yeah,
well, which
yeah,
they
that was
also
actually
had.
a
Which they
canceled TV show.
Yeah, which they also had. That's why I've seen like all of Atlantis and all the Cinderellas and everything because my grandparents bought it all so us kids would have stuff to watch at their house. Because for a long time they didn't have internet and they had shitty satellite, which didn't always work until they upgraded because we wanted to watch Cartoon Network. I was a kid, but so that's how I saw the Country Bears. It was one of the VHSs, and later on they got a DVD copy of it too when the
Mm.
VHS like aged because I watched it too much. And
I wonder how many kids wore through their copy of The Country Bears on VHS.
listen, and like,
Comment below if you were one of the kids that wore down their copy of The Country Bears
well,
Disney
like
movie on VHS.
the other Disney movies I rewatched a lot were like Fantasia. I loved Fantasia. And I didn't watch this one a lot, but this one I find hilarious because a lot of people don't know it, but it's on Disney Plus, and it's On the Ranch.
Home on the Range?
Home on the Range. Yeah, yep, Home on the Range.
You know, okay, you know how I've been sending a bunch of Artflow AI faces for like the past 2 weeks?
Yes.
Just today, I asked Artflow to make like different versions of Uncle Slim. I punched in Uncle Slim, Alameda Slim, Yancey Odell, and then I put in the Willie Brothers just to see what would happen because I grew up with a DVD copy of that one and watched it a bunch. And my
Yeah,
siblings actually like that one.
we had the DVD copy too.
What a wonderful penultimate burst of 2D animation in
So, wait,
Hollywood.
hang on. Your parents were really strict about what you were allowed to watch.
Yes.
I How have you not seen The Country Bears before? Because you've seen a lot of like Disney movies that were
Oh
very
yeah.
popular.
Oh
So
yeah.
how did this one like just go under the radar?
I mean, there isn't really much in the way of. I was about to say there wasn't much in the way of live action Disney. That was a lie. Um,
I was about to say,
we
I
saw
don't
Freaky
believe
Friday. We
that.
shot like the remake Freaky Friday, the remake Shaggy Dog, the earlier Parent Trap. You know, there was a
Yeah,
lot of those bouncing
those are
around.
classics.
I think I just didn't. I don't know. Like, nobody ever sat me down with the Country Bears. I don't think it ever looked appealing enough for a parent to pick it up for us, and I didn't want to watch it certainly because it looked freaky. Because like,
I
look, I
don't.
mean this in the nicest possible way. As someone that actually kind of sort of enjoys parts of the animatronic show, as evidenced by my thirsty shirt, uh, the costumes in this movie aren't sufficiently differentiated enough. Actually, no, they're thoroughly differentiated enough from the horror of the animatronics. They're just their own
Yeah.
kind of animal suit horror that I just wasn't really prepared for as a kid. As an adult, I look at them, I'm like, oh, they're kind of endearing. They're not really that horrifying. They just look like they're about to be horrifying at any given moment.
See, and
I just
like I did not find them creepy at all.
They don't. That's the thing. Like they don't look creepy. They look like they're about to look creepy. Like Barry's gonna turn to the camera, and for like for a brief instant, I'm going to see like the scene in The Shining when like he turns down the hallway and he sees the man in the bear suit about to do something very intimate with a man on a bed.
Hang
Like
on.
I
What?
assume I'm about to turn a corner and it's gonna be Barry making dead eye contact with me across the hall.
I forgot that was in The Shining.
I have been listening to the audiobook. That's like a small snippet of the weird dog kink stuff going on in The Shining, the
Okay.
book.
Let's get into what the Country Bears actually are because I'm not
Let's.
ready to have a conversation about The Shining. I haven't seen it in years. Um, we actually saw the movie sequel to that for the
We
first
did.
time
Doctor
in
Sleep is
theater
good.
together.
Doctor Sleep is like really like
Doctor Sleep
good
was
and
so fucking
interesting.
good.
It really invites interesting conversations about like and anyway,
Anyways, that's not what we're
Country
talking
Bears.
about. So the Country Bears, what happens in it? Is oh gosh, I can't believe I about to
It's the
explain
Muppets.
this.
It's the new Muppet movie. Except it happened a decade earlier, so I guess the new Muppet movie is it. But it's also kind of sort of the Muppet movie on account of the bus and the Gonzo alike and the chicken. Uh, so it's a little of like Muppets on the top and the bottom, but also the costumes are by Henson, so it's kind of like a Muppet from the side as well. It's surrounded by Muppetry.
Okay, what the Country Bear, what the Country Bears actually is a movie following the story of Barry Barrington.
Yes.
I hate that that's his name because I don't think that's the rest of the family's name.
No, their last name is Barrington.
They're all everybody's
They're
last
all
name is
Mrs.
Barrington.
Barrington. They address her as Mrs. Barrington, and that's when I put it together that these people named their adoptive son Barry Barrington because I guess they wanted to let him know that they hated him from the start.
Holy shit. Anyways, So there's this young adopted kid who's a fourth grader that will only be mentioned twice, and then it never comes up again. At the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie. He's a fourth grader who loves the Country Bears. It's an old musical country rock band that no longer plays anymore, and the whole movie begins with the Country Bears getting introduced, and you hearing some of their songs, and you seeing them play on one of their final concerts ever. Only to find out that the band is broken up, and this kid really, really, really wants to feel like he belongs somewhere, and his shitty older brother makes him feel like the house is hostile to his very existence. Because his parents constantly put Barry above his older brother, talking about how great Barry is and how shitty Dex is. Like, they do it a lot. They have they have like a whole bunch of photos of Barry everywhere, and Dex is only in family group photos.
Okay, but that was like, I had so many questions about the brother dynamic there, but like the whole a bunch of photos of one, no photos of the other, that's like an older sibling, younger sibling thing. But like Dex is clearly
Dex
kind of
is
the
the
older sibling,
older.
except he's not, is the thing also, because their dynamic doesn't make sense unless they're like new stepchildren. Why does Dex like randomly hate him extra hard all of a sudden? It doesn't. Anyway.
We'll get into that. So the brothers have issues with each other, and Barry feels as if he doesn't belong, and he wants to be somewhere where everybody can belong, no matter how weird you are, despite the fact Barry is extremely normal. He's a very normal kid. There's not much that's different about him, except for the fact he's a bear in a family of humans.
Did you mention the fact that he's a bear? Like, because I feel like that's...
He
is a bear.
He's a bear that was adopted by a family of humans.
He's a bear that is and it's so... Dex is the only one that like says that out loud is the thing. Obviously there's like evidence of it littered around. For example, the fact that he is a bear and they are humans. But
okay, so Barry asks his family if he's adopted. His family says, "What? No, of course not." And Dex is like, "Why are you lying? Ow, Mom!
Why are you lying?" Which was my first question too, frankly.
His parents like get him to stop, and he's like, "What? What?" And Barry's evidence of him being adopted is not the fact that he's a bear. I don't know if he knows that he's a bear or not. He has brown eyes, and they have blue and green.
I am not convinced any of the bears in this movie know that they are bears.
I have evidence that does. Anyways, okay. So Barry asks if he's adopted, and he says, "Well, I have brown eyes, and you all have like blue and green or whatever. I don't remember their eye colors, but
Dex has freckles, and
I
don't think I do.
Maybe he has all this fur covering his body, so he can't see his freckles if he does have them or not. And Dex is just like, "Wait, that's why you think you're adopted? What are you talking about?"
It's such a good running joke, though. Only Dex being the one that is, like, shocked that nobody's talking about the fact that his brother is a bear.
So, Dex and, Barry goes upstairs to talk. And Dex just runs home how, like, Barry doesn't belong there, and he's tearing the family apart. He literally says that, and it makes no sense, because Barry seems to be the one keeping it together. But, like,
Dex seems to be the only one that is, like, you know, not drunk the Kool-Aid here, and is not, like, willing to go into the weird adoptive lie.
Yeah, he's the one who's, like, has his parents argue and shit. But, anyways. And so he has this whole box of stuff to prove that Barry is, in fact, an adopted bear. Why Dex has it and it's not in the parents' room, I have no idea. Because Dex and Barry share a room, and it was in the closet at the foot of Barry's bed.
Here's my baby photo, and here's your baby photo. Picture of a baby bear being held by one leg by a ranger. Here's my birth certificate. Holds up a birth certificate. And here's yours. Holds up a radio collar and a transmitter receiver.
So, Barry runs away to go find his destiny.
And also find parents that aren't going to do the weird fake trope of lying about adoption. As someone from a family with adoption and like with transracial adoption at that, like that's like the adoption equivalent of the trope of like siblings that address each other as like hey bro or hey sis. Like that's a thing you would only write if you didn't have an adoptive person in your family. That's just not how life works, man. Like I've heard of it no, I've never actually heard of
So,
it. I have never heard of this ever happening before in real life.
as far
I
as
don't
like the hey bro, hey sis stuff goes, when my brothers and sister and I are like fucking around and mocking people,
yeah.
that's what we do.
I mean, this
That's
movie
how we
actually
address
nails that
each
trope
other.
because Dex only ever addresses Barry as "Hey dork," which is 100% accurate and also
Yeah.
1000% proof that Dex is the older brother.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. As the we're both eldest siblings here. I think
we're all
we've
both
done
eldest
that. I
siblings.
think we've
It's the
done that.
coolest position, if you want it to be.
Anyways, so Barry runs away to go find his destiny. He decides his destiny is with the Country Bears. He wants to see them play because he does not know they are broken up. He has VHSs of their like musical performances and like of a documentary talking about how amazing the Country Bears are and the kind of music they play. That even has Willie Nelson talking on it. Willie Nelson is in this movie twice, and it's both times it's just to talk about the Country Bears.
He was
Um,
just here in this documentary about the Country Bears,
yeah,
talking about how influential the Country Bears were on him, Willie
yeah,
Nelson.
yeah. I love it. As a kid who knew who Willie Nelson was, because like older relatives who listened to Willie Nelson always had me listen to Willie Nelson. Like I love it. But so he runs away. He gets to Country Bear Hall
Yeah.
and finds out that nobody lives there anymore except for Big Al, Henry, Brody, and Mr. Chicken, who
We
is a
stand
Miss
Big Al
Chicken.
and also Rhodey and Mr. Chicken. And also Henry,
I
I guess.
okay, but like Henry's like I gave so many years to this band and they all quit out of nowhere and now I owe $20,000 on this hall that we can't use for anything besides sleeping in and music. He's depressed and Big Al's the only one like, well, you can do it, Henry. Listen to the kid. You can go get him back.
You could do it.
You can do that. And Henry's like, nah, you're wrong, Big Al. I can't. Face it. In a week, this hall is going to be torn down because there's an evil bank guy who wants to turn it down who nearly hit Barry with a car. Yeah, he nearly hit a fourth grader with a car and no one blinks. Um,
No, no blinking at all. This is that sort of movie. Christopher Walken strolls up to be your evil banker for the day, and now we have to get the band back together to save the Country Bear house.
yeah, and Henry's like, face it, in a week that's all gonna be torn down, and we're gonna be learning from a teenager how to work a deep fryer. And Big Al, continuing on his positivity, is just like, well, we could do that.
Big
So
Al's here to be supportive, and we stand him.
Barry gives Henry another speech, and he's playing one of the Country Bears classic songs. And Henry's like, you know what? Fuck it. We're gonna go do this. We're gonna go get the band back together. So,
And then they
speed
pull
running.
the bus out from the Muppet movie, and then they just pull the exact
It's
bus that
not
was used in the Muppet
the
movie out.
same bus, okay?
And then
Anyways,
out comes Gonzo, but in human form, a man named Rhodey who is also married to a chicken. But it's gay. This is Mr. Chicken.
so quick rundown of events that happen after that. First, they go get Fred. Fred is working as a security guard. Fred plays the harmonica and the bass. He also is the one who likes to stage dive. He gets invited to work on a music video with a 2000s early pop singer and finishes the whole music video by jumping off the stage, landing on his face. He agrees to leave with Barry and Henry, and they take the fuck off and go get Zeb because Fred was the only one who ever wrote letters to Henry letting him know how his life was. So, and Zeb is the only one who bothered to call and talk to Fred, letting him know how his life was. So Fred's like, yeah, Zeb fell into his honey addiction.
Zeb has fallen into a deep, dark honey well from which there may be no return.
So they go and get Zeb. Zeb is at a bar that's owned by Queen Latifah.
whom we stand.
We
For
fucking...
unrelated reasons, we compared our Queen Latifah notes, and there is no overlap whatsoever,
All the
except for bringing down the house. I guess that's the one kind of overlap that we shared.
And we
The
both
Steve
seen
Martin
like
combo.
we've both seen Ice Age, but I didn't realize she was in Ice Age.
Wait. She's like a central character for most of Ice Age.
I don't. I did not see the last one. I saw the first four.
Yeah, in that she's in 75% of those as main cast.
Who is she?
She's Ellie.
Oh fuck! I did not know that.
She's Ellie. She was Ellie the whole time. Well, 80% of the time.
Okay. Anyways, so I've seen the Ice Age movies. I was not aware that Ellie was her. Anyways, but we have no overlap of Queen Latifah movies outside of those.
Would all the fans of Last Holiday please comment below so me and my parents can feel validated as Last Holiday fans?
I'm not shocked that you haven't seen like I think it's called Set It Off, or like the Barbershop's movie and its sequel, but like you should at some point. You should. Those are good movies. It's either Pay It Off or Set It Off. The one where she's robbing banks with her girlfriends.
I've not heard of this, and I need to.
It's a 1996 movie. It's so fucking good. Anyways, moving on.
Queen Latifah owns a honey pit in which Zeb has fallen into a deep, dark well of debt and addiction.
Yeah, and she just keeps giving him beers, and he owes $500. So Barry's like, well, we gotta get him to have permission to leave. He can't just stay here and keep drinking. Hey, ma'am, can we please enter in a contest against your guys to see whoever wins, we can leave? Like, you don't hear the conversation, but that's how I imagine Barry put it together, because the kid is like that. He's like if Steven Universe barely had the talk to get his way.
Here's my plan. We bet our main mode of transportation and also quite possibly our living facilities against $500.
Yeah.
I guess $500 is worth a lot more in the year 2001 when this was shot.
I don't think that bus is worth like $500.
I think that bus probably burns through about $500 worth of gas getting out of the parking lot.
Anyways, but yeah, so they don't have the money, and so he asks to do a competition. Everyone agrees. It's a battle of the band type style where Zeb fucking rocks the fiddle.
Oh yeah, takes him down with his fiddle solo. Absolutely sick. So they've got Zeb now.
Yeah, they've got Zeb. So then they go to get Tennessee, and Zeb hates Tennessee. He's like, well, he's still a fucking psychopathic, whiny baby. What's he doing then, Zeb? Like, they're concerned about him because Zeb is the one who was drunk at a bar. Zeb's like, oh, he's a marriage counselor. Zeb!
And then they do a Family Guy cutaway to him being a marriage counselor that's surprisingly effective.
That's surprisingly effective.
In a wonderful sweater, too, frankly. That was one of my first notes, is what a great sweater on this bear.
Now, I agree with Zeb. Like, that sweater was ugly as fuck. I would believe Trixie dumped him over that sweater.
Oh, I can't believe you'd hate on that beautiful sweater.
It's so bad.
It's so warm and fuzzy. Tennessee
leaves with them, but he won't play because Trixie's not around. And what happened with Trixie? She left him for a richer guy. That's the story. So they stay at a hotel trying to convince Tennessee to join. And who happens to be there singing in the bar with no one listening to her? Trixie!
Oh. And then we do a romance duet, and now we've got them both. And now it's time to get the last Infinity Stone to complete the Bear Gauntlet.
And that would be Ted, Fred's brother, who has not talked,
married to Sir Elton John.
Fred, who has not spoken a single fucking word to any of the bears, but Henry figures out where he's at. Not by accidentally finding out he's actually a wedding singer now.
Oh,
but
a wedding singer who
just looking him up
lives above Elton John's garage.
Yeah, he lives in above Elton John's garage and pays rent there. But
they're together in my heart.
I mean, I pretty sure Henry and Big Al are a thing. But moving on.
We know Rhodey and Mr. Chicken are a thing.
They're the like only confirmed couple aside from like Tennessee and Trixie, and that is horrifying to think about.
I raised my kids in that van.
Please tell me your kids are chicken and not human children. Anyways, so they go get Ted. Ted's like, fuck this, I don't want to be here. The whole time they were getting accused of like kidnapping Barry because he's a fourth grader who ran away from home and no one asked him where the fuck he came from. And so they're being chased by the cops until they find Ted. And then that's when the cops like stop looking for him and just decide we're gonna hunker down in the family's home and wait for the ransom call, which is never coming. Because they have the taller cop, which is also the white one,
Officer Cheats, I think.
Is that it? I don't remember their names. They're cops. I did not remember.
You remember every single bear, but not
I do!
Officer Ham and Officer Cheats?
I remember every bear,
Their
but not
name
those
is actually a joke.
Don't care. Anyways, so he's also the regular voice for Ted. They all have regular voices, and then they have singing voices. So he's the regular voice for Ted, so they had to get the cops out of the way so he could be Ted. And be the final bear. Ted kicks them all out and yells at them, tells them, I'm never joining the band again. Everybody walks away. Zeb says nothing. He's just like, fuck it, I knew this would happen. Bye. I don't owe money anymore, and you guys have a place I could crash. Cool. And Fred is like, fuck this, my brother's a dick, but he's going to come along anyways. And he literally kidnaps his brother.
And it goes,
I'm not joking. He literally punches his
him
brother.
And they drag him out of the wedding.
Yeah, while in the middle of a performance. Ted literally stops singing the song like, oh, I hate my fucking life.
It's just so bad. It's just so bad. Anyway.
Oh, I want to die is what he says.
I mean, that's the line from the song. It's just, you know, he says it like he means it.
He says it like he means it. But, so he gets kidnapped, and they've actually officially kidnapped the person. They didn't kidnap the fourth grader. They definitely kidnapped the grown bear, though.
So we go to an open field to hang out and chat a bit. I'm sorry. Fred tells them to stop the bus, gets out, and has a whole rant to tell them about how they have no good plans.
Ted tells them to stop. Fred is his brother.
Them to stop the bus. And he's like, you didn't know who's doing sound? You don't have a track list? Have you even gotten practice together? What are you doing, you goofballs? You don't know anything. This is why the Country Bears is a shams. We're not a family. Barry needs to go home. This is the all is lost moment, if you're taking notes.
And Barry at first is like, but... And then he just drives it back in like, no, go home. This ain't happening.
And then he does.
And then he
runs home like he's Forrest Gump.
We don't have any idea how he gets home because they're in the middle of the country.
Like he's Forrest Gump.
They're not at their house or anything. Like they're not even close to the Bear Hall.
Barry runs home to the Barrington residence on his two bipedal paws, like the man is a Forrested Gump.
So after he says something like, you know what, you're not a family, because family are the people who love you no matter what happens. And that's what his dad told him when he asked if he was adopted, and his dad straight up lied and said, what? No, and even if you were, we would still love you, because this is what family is. And then he adds, we would love you even more than Dex. I'm sorry, Dex is fucked.
It's a rough old time to be Dex in the Barrington house.
So Barry runs back home. His family is like, oh, I'm so happy to see you. Dex was like, why didn't you stay and do the concert? You were excited about that, because Dex was the only one he bothered to pick up the phone when Barry actually called. And the cops are like, well, I guess we'll leave now. Because the kid came home, I guess we're done.
Have fun with the rest of the movie. I hope there are no hijinks.
So, they find Barry's stuff in the car, and they're like, well, we gotta give it back. So they drive the bus to Barry's house, and Ted, the one who yelled at the kid and told him that life is a sham, there are no dreams that are worth achieving, you might as well give up on everything, walks up to the front door. Now Dex answers because Dex is the only family member that does anything in this fucking
Dex,
movie.
yeah, seriously. Dex is here. Mom is having a breakdown, being an excellent campy caricature. She deserves to be in this movie. I'm
And
not sure what Dad is doing besides looking like a discount Chevy Chase.
so Dex
I mean,
answers the
Chevy Chase is the
door.
discount Chevy Chase, but still.
Dex answers the door and he sees that it's Ted who asked for Barry. So Dex runs upstairs and tells Barry, "Hey, that guy you were talking about who was awful to you, he's here. You want me to kick him out?" And Ted walks into the room and looks down at him like, "Sure, kid, try." Dex is like, and storms out, leaving his brother alone with a stranger who just stormed his way into that house instead of like waiting like he was asked.
I don't know why you're putting so much emphasis on this. This is a perfectly normal scenario. I see nothing wrong with the large bear man walking into the young boy's room and being left alone in there.
So Ted gives a speech about how Barry was right and asks if Barry would still want to come along to the show because they're going to try and do it. And then the bus gets stolen, and Rhodey gets kicked off, but all the bears are left on because someone has to tell everybody the bus was stolen and that they didn't just ditch Ted's ass. Ted
It's so
would
bad.
believe he got left behind 100%. These bears are not kind to
You
each
remember a
other.
million years ago when we mentioned that Christopher Walken is a bad guy in this movie,
He's
and then
like
we
a big
never
bad
mentioned that
guy.
again?
He's like a
Turns out
big bad
Christopher
guy.
Walken is a bad guy in this movie. He's kidnapped the bears and their bus to get revenge on them for beating him at a talent show like 40 years ago.
In the
Uh,
fifth grade.
in the fifth grade, because that's the sort of movie that we're dealing with. Anyway, don't worry. Don't Before too long, Fred comes crashing in on a speedboat.
Ted is on the speedboat. Fred is taller than him and doesn't wear glasses.
Ted Wood comes
Balding.
in on a speedboat, sliding over on the concrete. We have a lot of hilarious hijinks getting him into that speedboat and getting that speedboat launched into the warehouse in which the bears are captured. But he sufficiently knocks down enough stuff to get them and saved and ready to go.
They get the bus back and they head towards Bear Hall. And Christopher Walken is there ready to tear the place down because no one showed up, which means in the morning, first thing, he can tear it down because they won't have the money to save it. And this is his life goal. He has a whole in his office, he has hundreds of like stacked up models of the Country Bear Hall, and he has a weight like Wile E. Coyote that drops from the ceiling and crushes it anytime he presses a button.
There's an extended montage of this man just crushing a bunch of them, and the film like cementing into our brain how
He is
much
the
time
bad
this
guy.
man spends crushing Country Bear Hall in miniature. It is astonishing, and
So
it goes on.
so Big Al was left to set the whole place up. And the lawn now looks perfect after Henry ruined it, which Henry's the only person allowed to fuck up the lawn. Um He's literally the only one who doesn't get yelled at. Nobody's parked. No lights are done. The only thing that looks like it's been changed is the lawn is now fixed. So they go in really disappointed. And then they find out the guy they hired to advertise the show didn't advertise it because he got bribed by Christopher Walken. So, they're ready to give up and they're angry. And it feels like we're finally going to see a bear like swipe a head off because Henry gets so mad and he starts getting bigger and he looks like he's about to charge at Rip, who's the guy who didn't do his job and advertise for them. And then Big Al walks in like, "Henry, what are you doing?" And Henry's like, "Big Al, there's not gonna be a show. I'm angry." And Big Al's like, "What are you talking about? There's people waiting." "What? No, there's not." And he opens the door and hundreds of people come in to fill the hall because he made them all park in the back because he didn't want them fucking up the front lawn. But there's not a parking, like, there's no parking spaces anywhere. So they're just fucking up the back lawn instead. But the front lawn grass is not allowed to be trifled with. I
The
don't
points
know.
of logic here that drive you to have to make asides are really exciting and extraordinary.
So Big Al saves the day. They make enough money to save the hall. Christopher Walken gets carried out by the crowd and forced onto the ground and outside
Barry
and shit.
Barrington does get a solo on the diddly bow that one of them plays.
Yeah, and he gets to perform with them. And Jax is like, that's not a little bear, that's my brother, despite the fact his brother is indeed, in fact, a little bear, and this is the only time he's bothered to, like, make that distinguishing remark. But okay. I don't know why that was his character journey instead of admitting, like, yeah, I'm really proud of my little brother.
Let's
Uh,
side by side this movie with Stuart Little. I feel like there's a lot to pull out about transracial adoption as a subject between those two movies specifically.
anyways, the movie ends with, them playing it out at the
And
concert.
they play it out.
And then you get the rest of the documentary, which is just a bunch of musicians complimenting the Country Bears. And Elton John, and Elton John at the very end ends and is like, I fucking hate bears. And then Zeb's voice actor from the background shouts, yeah, I bet you fucking do. No, I'm
Word
sorry.
for word. That's exactly what they say. I was quite astonished. This is a G movie.
I'm sorry. What he actually says is, yeah, I bet you do. And they both break down laughing. It's great.
That was basically my notes too. Yeah, I bet you do, Elton.
So that's the movie. That is the movie. It's very, Noah keeps describing it as camp. It's very cliche and easy to predict where it's going, and very much, oh, we got to get to these points. Let's focus on that. We're not really here for like deep topics.
I think we need to talk about the word camp here because,
I don't know what you mean by it. I've literally only ever heard it used once, and it was at that fucking dress reward show where everybody was supposed to dress camp and they all looked horrible.
it really astonishes me because camp is a term that gets thrown around like a lot. Like,
I don't know what you mean by camp.
Okay, I'm gonna try and find a definition for camp, which is tricky because it's one of those words that's hard to define. Because there are basically two kinds of camp. There's intentional camp and unintentional camp.
I know camp is in camping.
Camp is like a style of performance and storytelling and art. It's where a lot of stuff like pop art comes from. And also just a lot of pulp culture.
Are you trying to use the word tacky?
Well, tacky's part of it, definitely. Tacky stuff is very campy.
Okay. Anyways.
Camp is like, have you ever seen a John Waters movie?
I don't know names.
Have you ever seen Pink Flamingos, Female Trouble, Hairspray,
I've seen
Mom?
Hairspray, and I hated Hairspray.
The original movie or the musicals?
I've seen both. My mom absolutely loves Hairspray, and I have seen everything about it, and I hate it.
Hairspray was a John Waters. It was kind of his most tame one. You should see some of the exciting stuff at some point without any family around, and the doors locked. It's a lot.
Wait, what?
John Waters is a lot. He's
You're concerning me.
He's a lot. He would not be allowed on Tumblr. It would violate certain rules on Tumblr.
Oh, the new rules. Okay.
Anyway, camp is, it's not insincere. It's just like, it is loud, it is tacky, it is gay, it is bright, it is colorful, it is emotionally rich, and it doesn't really, it's ironic, but not in like a derisive way. It embraces the things it's sarcastic about. Like the 1960s Batman TV show is just wall-to-wall camp. Like, it is not trying to be cruel or hateful about superheroes. It loves superheroes and is going to like do the most like tongue, not even tongue in cheek, just like straightforward, like jokey joke. Here's just a cartoon superhero cranked up to 11 and we shot it in live action and we're playing it straight faced. That's very classic sort of intentional camp. We're going to play with a lot of these pop culture artifacts that we know are silly, and we're going to be silly about it, and we're going to have fun with that. Country Bears, the movie, is somewhere in the zone where I think there's a lot of intentional camp going on, like the fact that they just keep lacing bears in the background, or that her like the mom mentions that she bakes when she's stressed, and then we cut to shots of the kitchen where every surface is covered with pies or some sort of baked good. Like those are elements of like clear intentional camp being played with, pop culture ideas or just weird cartoon logic being taken to straightforward extremes that we are playing straight face. That's very intentional camp.
Okay. What's your point?
This is a really campy movie, and camp is fun. Also, camp has got a lot of gay stuff going on, and this movie has Elton John, a gonzo chicken ship, and also the aforementioned Henry Big Al thing going on.
Yeah.
And also anything Christopher Walken is in is probably pretty camp too.
Also,
I've
the
got a
bears have
fever.
superpowers. The bears
Also,
can
the bears.
teleport. Like,
I mean, they can travel by map for sure. I think we just don't see the map.
yeah, we don't see the map, and it seems like they teleport in and out of buildings.
We can never see them go through a door.
Even Big Al is like, well, guess I gotta go back to my home setting. Bye, Walken. He makes Walken turn around, and 10 seconds later, he's at the front of the house shouting, "Hey, I may be chubby, but I move quickly." And then he waves Walken off as if Walken is nothing.
And he does move quickly for a Big Al.
Okay, so I really want to know.
Yes.
We've talked about how it's happened,
Mm-hmm.
as it happened.
Yes.
How can you not remember the bears' names?
Okay, but also like there's a lot of interesting remembering going on left and right here, because you seem to think that Barry doesn't know the band is broken up when he arrives.
I don't think he does.
Part of the documentary mentions the Bears were broken up.
But when he gets there, he's like, "Why aren't the bears around?"
Is he? I've totally forgotten that too, I guess.
He's like, "Where is everybody? Aren't the bears going to play?"
Aww.
So he just ignored that part in the fucking documentary, I feel like.
Or maybe skipped over it.
Or maybe he's like, maybe they don't play music in concerts anymore, but surely they all still live in Bear Hall, right?
Oh yeah.
Maybe that's what was going on with him. He just assumed they all lived together. Maybe he could get to see one show.
Setting aside transracial adoption, there's a lot of this that also could be read with a lot of queer allegory in it too. I've got to run away to a place where people can be like me and be a family and like be happy about it. And also Elton John is here. Elton John is carrying a lot of the queer weight in this movie that isn't being carried by Rhodey and Mr. Chicken, but
well, it was just even queer because Mr. Chicken turns out to be a woman and you just didn't know.
I mean, then it's a trans icon. Ms. Chicken is here to save us all from the boundaries of assumed gender.
Okay, so the bears clearly look different. So some of the costumes do get reused as bears in the background. That's 100% true. They only had so many costumes. A lot of money went into this whole project. But like, each one of the main bears look completely different from each other.
Yeah.
How can you not remember their names?
I just didn't pay attention to the names at all.
I'm fucking heartbroken.
I don't pay attention to, like, there's a part of my brain that I've built to just ignore names, like, entirely. Like, I will catch myself when I am just, like, reading any nonfiction. The moment that a name comes up, my brain automatically looks to see where the end of the name is so I can jump to there. I don't care.
Wow.
Don't need that information.
Okay, so, question. Was there anything that stood out to you in the movie besides the campiness of it?
The camp was a lot of my joy. The camp was a lot of where I was taking in sheer thrills. I don't know where this falls on the spectrum. I love Trixie. Like, I knew there was going to be a sexy bear.
What?
As an aficionado of the Country Bear Jamboree, I knew that there had to be a lady bear. Preferably a few of them, preferably the sunbonnet beauties.
There was only one.
But I will settle for Trixie. who seems to be a hybrid of Trixie and the one that comes down on the swing, whose name I forget because I don't know their names either. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
I wish Trixie got to do literally anything in the movie.
yeah, I wish she had gotten to do shit in the movie too. But she doesn't, and there's not really any other women besides the mom. Like, there's not a lot of stuff that matters
I
in
love
this movie.
I love Christopher Walken's bizarre like nigh almost like uncomfortable joy at destruction. Uh that that whole sequence of him crushing the jamboree, crushing the hall in effigy, that felt very John Waters. That felt very much like something that John Waters would have like set up in
Does John
like and had
Waters
like
have a
rewind
hand in
to.
this movie?
I don't think it is entirely possible at all. I'm sorry. I think that it is entirely impossible that Disney would ever let John Waters near anything at this point in
You just
time.
keep bringing him up, and I'm so confused. Like, is he someone who worked on the movie?
No, he's just like a guy. He's just like a creepy guy. You remember the SNL song they did a few years back, The Creep?
Yeah.
That was like the aesthetic of that was just John Waters. So much so that John Waters appears at the end of that bit.
Oh.
The thin mustache and like the like balding and the
Yeah, no,
nerdy
I do
clothes.
not recall this.
That's John Waters, and that's just how he dresses. He also shows up on The Simpsons. If you ever watched that, I didn't.
I mean, yeah, I've seen The Simpsons, but I
Did you
don't
ever see the
remember
episode
every
of Homer's
background
Phobia?
character.
There's a whole episode where he meets
Yeah.
a new gay guy named John.
Yeah, and he's like scared the gay guy has a crush on him.
Yep, that's played by John Waters. And also
Oh.
his store of like pop culture campy ephemera. That's basically a big allusion to all of John Waters' art.
Okay. Sad that I only know him from The Simpsons.
We'll have to watch a Divine movie at some point for this, and maybe bring Beth along too, because I know that she also likes John Waters stuff. So maybe she can help me introduce you to the world of Female Trouble or Pink Flamingos.
Wait, Beth does?
Yeah, we mentioned it when we did our episode about
Beth hasn't been on the show.
not Beth. Oh, sorry, not Beth.
Shelby.
Shelby.
I was like,
Shelby. Sorry, other anthro friend.
I have a lot of anthropology friends that I've introduced him to.
and anyway, Shelby, who is wonderful and needs to come onto the show again if you're listening, had mentioned that she had also seen some John Waters films, and I think that she needs to come back so we can do a John
So,
Waters episode.
let's get back to the Bears. Because
Let's
we're
get back
talking
to
a
the
lot about John
Bears.
Waters, and I know nothing about him.
And
So,
yeah, Camp and John Waters. We'll have to do that later. Let's talk about the Bears and this movie and the excellent sequence in the car wash, which was
the car wash is
genuinely
great.
hilarious.
It is genuinely it's the funniest part of the whole fucking movie.
It looks like it's about to be a hilarious body horror sequence.
So in the car wash, Rhodey decides to get rid of the cops that are chasing them down because they have a fourth grader who ran away in their van. I'm sorry, not van, bus. A van makes it sound so much creepier. In their bus, Rhodey's like, I'm gonna do a move called going to the car wash. And Henry's like, well, what's that? He's like, we're gonna go to the car wash. So they
And
go
then
to the car wash and they wait. And if they had gone in right away, they would have lost the cops. But they don't. They have to wait in line.
They have to wait their turn.
So they get in line, and the cops look over and see a bingo sign, and I honestly just legitimately thought Cheats, that's his name, right? The guy who also does the voice for Ted
Yeah, Cheats.
was talking about the bingo sign that said bingo, 9 p.m., and he says bingo, 9 o'clock, and they go in after the Bears in the fucking car wash. And they're trying to get the Bears to stop, but they're in a car wash, so their car can't stop. The Bears' car can't stop. It just has to go. And Henry sees the cops coming after them. He's like, step on it, Rhodey. And Rhodey's like, we're in a fucking car wash, Barry. I'm sorry, we're in a car wash, Henry. Like, dude, I can't move. So they just have to wait, and the cops get yanked out of their windows by the spinners in the car wash to clean their car.
And they're just obliterated by the spinners. They get back and forth, beaten up against the car, rolled over, sprayed with soap, sprayed with fans, sprayed with hot wax. It's just a sequence of events that if given a director interested in, say, an R rating, could have had a lot of fun with some sort of haunting, murderous car wash. But as it was quite frankly just an excellent bit of harmless slapstick, and I would have loved
They
it as a kid.
they walk out with with like they walk out with their hair completely different, and it would have been impossible. So they've clearly got like wigs on, but it's hilarious nonetheless. Cause like I don't think either of them have a lot of hair.
No, yeah, but Officer Ham has a massive afro. Officer Cheats has
His hair going
Jesse's
straight
haircut
back.
from Pokemon.
His hair just goes straight back in a line all the way back here.
He has Jesse's hair.
Uh,
Hey,
thanks,
by the way, did we
Kurtz.
mention that we accidentally did a Daryl Mitchell's double feature?
Oh yeah, we did. So he was in Galaxy Quest. That's the name of the movie, right?
Yes, he was in
And
Galaxy
he's the
Quest.
cop in here. He's Officer
Yep.
Ham.
He played Tommy Weber, aka Laredo, in Galaxy Quest, and now he's Officer Ham.
Yeah, and I didn't know he was in this movie.
Yeah,
Because
it was fun.
I cannot stress how much I totally forgot cops were in this movie. Like, my mind obliterated them. I honestly did not think we went back to the family ever. I don't remember them. I just remember Dex eventually apologizing to his brother and seeing his brother perform and all the stuff with the bears. My mind like fucking narrowed in on the bears and stuck with them.
It's funny because I really, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna hope nobody takes it out of context. I really liked the cops.
And you got clipped.
And there's the clip. I just got pulled over for the first time last night. It was terrifying.
Oh, it's the worst experience ever
Oh,
in existence. I hate it. I hate talking to cops. I hate getting pulled over. I hate being on the same street as them. I will literally cut behind buildings and yards to avoid them. And yeah, I know people who might be watching this are like, but Taylor, you're white. Yes, I am. And I grew up in an interracial family. Cops are terrifying.
Cops are scary and not a good way to promote road safety, frankly.
No. Not at
Anyway,
all.
I find the cops really good in this movie where they get beaten up by a car wash.
They kind of remind me of the stereotypical cops you see in a lot of like Cartoon Network shows. For like Johnny Test, there was also
Johnny Test specifically.
Yes!
What I was thinking of.
Johnny
I
Test
blew up
cops are just
Malaysia.
like these guys. Why are you a cop? It's all oh gosh, it's really the exact same dynamic, but a lot goofier, if you can believe it. The cops in Johnny Test try and have like lessons to tell Johnny, like especially the episode where he runs away, but not not in this.
In terms of design, I think they're very much based on like Men in Black, because one's black, one's white. They're called Mr. Black and Mr. White, and they're like
Probably.
secret agents. But personality-wise, it's all the same vein as the Country
guys.
Bears cops. They're the same level of incompetent, and it's excellent. It plays off of the jokes so well. I kept expecting in the conversation with the family them to be like, "Your son is a bear? What?" And
Nah,
no,
they just accept that.
they're just like, yeah. Like Dex is like, he has brown hair all over his body, and they're like,
Okay.
yeah. There's a picture of him, and it's like, okay, we're coming for this boy. No questions whatsoever.
Uh, one of my favorite parts, and it's a gag, and it's also one of the only bits of like world building in this whole entire movie. There's not a lot of world building in this movie. I cannot stress this enough.
Just
Bears
world,
evolved.
Bears.
Basically, bears evolved alongside humans to learn how to talk and speak and whatnot. And Barry gets found in the middle of the woods and gets adopted by a white family. That's just how Barry starts off. But the only bear to ever mention anything about parents, there's two. Fred talks about how his dad gave him his harmonica. One of his
harp.
His harmonica. And Zeb talks about a mom. And that's it. None of the bears have families besides Fred and Ted are brothers and they have a dad and Zeb has a mom somewhere. That's it. So all the world building in this when it comes to the bears is just like we're not going to explain shit. But they have random stuff designed just for bears to help explain their presence in the world and make a little bit more sense. And that stuff would be like a automatic back scratcher that's in the bar that you pay 25 cents and it's a fucking
It's just a
bark,
tree.
it's a it's tree bark attached to a gear that just moves up and down and
Or
scratches
like how
bears' backs.
every single payphone that Henry finds along the way that uses to call people is ludicrously long and branded and like clearly meant to be bear accessible.
Exactly. So it's little things like that that I just love about this movie.
It's just I
it's
love
stuff it's stuff like that that a lot of people when they write like anthropomorphic creatures in comics or whatever, they forget to do, or even when they're
yeah.
making stuff about aliens and sci-fi, they forget to make things that aren't like only for humans.
It's like it's like if you watch Arthur and the way that Buster wears earphones and also Arthur wears earphones and also everyone wears earphones. They all have the same ears. Why are earphones like that? Except for DW who has like earbuds and she like she's got the wires going down her face. Anyway,
Okay. But I found that kind of like world building hilarious. But
it's excellent. It's hilarious.
you kind of wonder if maybe Rhodey and his relationship with his chicken, and I know it's a gag. It's meant for jokes. You're not meant to think they're actually in a relationship, but it's the only relationship we ever hear about from Rhodey. I kind of wonder if that happened because he spent all his time around bears and he just assumed all animals were kind of like bears and humans and have intelligence equal enough to participate in relationships.
What evidence do you have that the man is wrong?
Not yes. It's so weird. It's so weird. Honestly, the only like there's one character in this movie that makes like a deep and well like pointed out point, and that
hmm
would be Ted when he's being a huge dick. And I know. I'm not being depressing this time though. Ted has a good point. Ted argues that he's the only reason why the band ever stayed together because he's the one who planned shit when Henry failed at his job. Um, and Fred argues Ted's the reason why they broke up because Ted was constantly complaining about everything. And I just gotta say, the two aren't mutually exclusive. If you've got one guy not doing just his job, but multiple other people's jobs too, because none of you know how to do this shit, yeah, he's gonna complain a lot. Of course he's not gonna want to be a part of the band.
It's really funny, you know, because that only comes up at a little bitty bit right before like the end of the second act, you know, just like okay, we got to have some conflict in here because this whole movie is just like oops, all wish fulfillment the whole time.
Yeah.
Like the main jokes, like I said, are just how everyone kind of goes with the flow with everything. Nobody questions the bears, nobody questions Barry. Nobody has anything to say at all about the oddity of the situation.
They
That's
literally see the
I w-
bears with the child on TV being called kidnappers, and no one in the diner flinches, and they're like, "Yeah, let's sneak them out the back."
I just like as a joke, I quite appreciate the no, let's just keep going with it. There is no conflict. Let's just keep going with the flow. Every time conflict tries to rear its ugly head, just keep walking forward. Don't make
Barry
eye
will solve
contact with
it.
it.
No one's going to
Barry
ask Barry who he is or where he came from, but Barry will solve it.
Barry will solve it. Rhodey will solve it. A good musical number with maybe no pertinence to the plot at all will solve it. You know, something like that. Only one of the songs in this movie has like lyrics that are specific to the actual events of what's going on,
Which
but
one
they're
do you think
also
that is?
it's all I mean like literally directly about like the interactions between characters. The only one that does that is like the Queen Latifah fight challenge. I saw that you like made some notes about the first song with the nameless 2000 pop star singing
Yeah.
about like family and bringing that together. I'm like thematically that like yeah is in the same
There's
vein, but that's not like about two characters exchanging like.
It's not about two characters and exchanging anything, but there are all the songs I would argue have a point to the plot. Well, not all, most do. I like the bar one best because I feel like it was written for the movie, ergo it fits the best in with the movie instead of being rehashed from somewhere else. It's also one of the two biggest influences that got me into violin. Like, this movie is why I insisted on learning violin for years. I'm not even lying. I cannot explain how annoying I was to my parents to my mom after I watched this movie
Oh
and
yeah.
saw the fiddle.
Like, oh, I've got to be the bear with the honey addiction playing the fiddle.
The
That's
thing
that's
was-
what Baby Taylor wants to be.
The thing was, I did. I'm not. I as a kid, I did not realize it was talking about alcoholism. But even so, most of my family are alcoholics. So even growing up around that was pretty normal. So I did the same thing with the Country Bears I did with Winnie the Pooh. I would get a cup of honey because my grandma wouldn't let me have more than that. It'd be like a little medicine cup of honey, and I would get a spoon.
I thought you meant the unit of volume.
No, like, she had little medicine cups, and she would put
Yeah.
a little bit of honey in there and give me a spoon, and I would eat honey while watching this movie and Winnie the Pooh. And so, yeah, I did want to be Zeb. I thought he was hilarious. I thought he was the best fucking character. I thought he was the only one making sense, because he's like, are you sure it wasn't the sweater? Maybe that's why she broke up with you. He said shit like that, and I found it hilarious, and I did want to be him. But
Zeb was your aspirational bear. Good to know. Good to know going forward.
But I had a point. The duet is a perfect reflection of how Tennessee's and Trixie's relationship has worked out in the past and will work out in the future. The Kick It in the Gear song is literally just the movie telling itself, we gotta move, let's go! Henry, get in the fucking car! So I would argue there's a few songs that are actually like,
they don't have nothing to do with the plot. They have something to do with the plot.
Stop spending time in this diner and kick it in the gear and get in the fucking van.
Which is why we're going to spend 3 minutes on this musical number.
Oh, man. But, like, Ted is also the one that saves everybody. He's the one in the boat that, like, breaks through and breaks everybody out of the prison. But he's also the one who goes into the house and is the reason why the bears are separated once again, because he's not on the bus. So that's his one role. Break the bears apart, also keep them together.
And it never gets resolved, does it? They never explain if, like, the dynamic is going to shift. Because it doesn't matter. Oops, all wish fulfillment. We've got to get to the point where Barry Barrington's going to play the diddly bow in front of the audience.
It's really funny because Barry is voiced by the guy that does Sora, Sora's English voice in Kingdom Hearts. He also is the guy who plays Topher in What We Do in the Shadows, which is what I know him from, because I don't care about Kingdom Hearts.
From What We Do in the Shadows. I recognize the name Haley Joel Osment as, like, one of the child stars that was doing a lot at this point in time. I just couldn't pick him out of a lineup if you put a gun to my mouth.
He's Topher. And I know because Daniel and I had a big old fight about, like, how he's Sora, and I did not care he was Sora, and how much I should care that he's Sora. Because I do not care about Kingdom Hearts. I own over half the mangas. I do not give a fuck about the games. Don't at me. I don't care. I'm not here for it.
That's really impressive because, like, with the manga, you're just left with the madness.
With the manga, I'm left with the plot about the original characters, and I don't have to rewatch Disney movies while playing levels that are just fucking platforms.
I mean, I only had Dream Drop Distance. I remember a lot more than platforms. Anyway, this is not a Kingdom Hearts ad. This is a different buried in the Disney vault piece of nonsense that we're playing with here. And what we're playing with is funny, I would argue. A good funny camp bit of nonsense.
I know it probably seems like we haven't talked much much about the substance of the show, but I cannot stress enough there isn't much in the way of
There
substance.
is no substance. It actively fights against any effort to give it substance.
If you enjoy like old musicians, which most of the musicians are old, watch this movie. Watch it, pay attention to the background because the musicians that are the singing voices of the characters appear in the backgrounds a shit ton. The lead singer of the Eagles is there and literally says the country bears were always better than the Eagles. Like, I'm not bullshitting you. It's hilarious.
It is it I imagine if you're a fan of country and rock, you would find a lot of funny stuff going on in the background in addition to the things I was kind of pretending to notice. It took me a genuine few seconds to recognize Elton John, I will admit.
Holy
I was
shit.
like, "Huh, it's a Gardner character. I guess one of the bears had to wind up rich." Oh, wait.
I
Wait.
okay.
Why do I want to watch Rocket Man right now?
I kind of want to know, like, never mind.
What? Oh,
Never mind.
decided it was too personal a question for the public pod?
It wasn't too personal a question. I just feel like if we continue down that path, we're not going to get to talk about the live action musical animatronic show.
Oh, you mean the thing that this movie is based off of? This movie, which by the way is like the third Disney movie to be based off of a Disney World / land property. The first two were Tower of Terror, which is already based off of something. It is the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. And then I can't even. The second one was Mission to Mars. I didn't know Mission to Mars had a movie. I barely knew Mission to Mars was a ride until the last time I was at Disney World.
Uh,
And I'm a big fan of Epcot.
the ride that got a movie after this one, I think, was the Haunted Mansion. I think that was the next one.
And then we finally got a good one with Pirates of the Caribbean eventually. Somehow that happened. Didn't
I
they
would
just
argue the Haunted Mansion is a decent movie.
I have never seen Sir Eddie Murphy's Haunted Mansion.
As a kid, I love Eddie Murphy's work. I
Mm.
really enjoy movies that have him, and I even enjoy the ones where like his lesser famous brother is in them too. Um, but the Haunted Mansion terrified me as a child. So there were like two
Much like
movies.
the real like ride,
Yeah, so like
probably.
the Country Bears music ride show whatever.
The Country Bears
Uh,
Jamboree, the animatronic show that is just a
that
bunch
was
of animatronic
kind of
bears singing a medley
terrifying.
of country songs to you, which I made you watch for the first time like actually
10
2
minutes
hours ago
before,
exactly.
yeah, 2 hours ago exactly. That was kind of horrifying, and I hate the design of the bears, and I didn't like how you can barely tell what most of them are saying. I like
Oh
this
yeah.
movie better.
Oh
I prefer
yeah.
this movie.
My first like trip to like see the Country Bear Jamboree, unpleasant, largely. Can't understand a word they're saying, just a bunch of hideous bears jumping out of nowhere left and right. The only thing you can understand are the heads on the wall, but you barely notice that there are stuffed heads on the wall that
Because
are
they're
talking
right
because
above the exit. Like, you're not gonna be looking at
you're not looking
them.
at them. I did like
Ah,
the ones that were
I,
they were upset because all the guys that turned them on turned them down because that one has slides with the lyrics so you like understand what's
I
going on.
I really need to look up and see if that's based off a book later because that looks like one of those like golden little stories
It's
books.
the same style that they use. It's the bear like drawing style is reminiscent of like a Disney bear that gets drawn a lot, and or got a number of shorts. And that when you see the like the slides that come up for the sunshine bonnet girls or whatever they're called, their song, you see like these bear designs, but as like 2D, like as they would have been drawn. It suddenly all clicks and you're like, oh, they're not hideous monstrosities that barely resemble bears. They're hideous monstrosities that kind of sort of resemble animated bears. That's what we're going for.
But I'm so glad the movie didn't go with that because I like the
Yeah.
costumes in the movie a lot better than like the only one the only two I think could have been better was Trixie's
Mm-hmm.
because she looks very much like Barry, slightly taller. That's
I felt
it.
like she had a radically different facial structure, funnily enough.
I did not see much of a difference between her and Barry. But and I kind of wish Big Al looked a little bit more like his animatronic because that was a
Yeah,
good design. I would
Big Al
argue Big
animatronic
Al's
is
animatronic is a good fucking design.
the
Everything else is
superior.
horrifying.
I'm sorry that Sam the raccoon that pretends to be a raccoon Cap is not present and is not another one of Henry's buddies. That is one of my regrets.
I feel like he would have just gotten in the way of Big Al and Henry's like dynamic. Like they had so few lines together. What is a third character going to do? Cut in and take even more lines from the already existing cast.
I think Henry is allowed to have friends outside of his lover and his job.
Hey, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this movie has so much going on that needs to get done. Already the main character barely talks.
And it is a tight 90 minutes. This is a tight 90-minute movie.
It really is. I kind of wish after watching like the animatics though that the movie had a slightly different like plot.
Yes, because this movie has nothing to do. It's a lot like the new Muppet movie in that why are you doing the bring the band back together plot when you could have just done a movie about the band? You could have done you could have done Spinal Tap with bears.
You could have done anything that was about the band. I kind of wanted to see a movie where it would be the bears trying to get along despite all the family that lives together. I really wanted to see like the other bear characters, if they were going to be a thing in the movie, I wanted to see them show up and cause fucking problems and they be like the plot, dealing with all this extended family that is coming in and taking up your time and fucking around with your shit, and you got to figure out how the hell are you going to get them to go away. Like, I wanted that movie.
Man, there's a lot. It's a really interesting direction to go, but I guess it makes sense. You want to like get butts into seats with your weird, kind of creepy animatronic adaptation movie, and so you go with kind of a generic plot.
But
It's
I
kind
feel
of just
like
the only connection I saw was this one line that Henry has at like the end of the show, where he says, you know, something to the effect of, "We're just one big family here." And I figure one writer sat through the show like twice, and he heard Henry say family, and it's like, that's it, family. And
well, I
bringing the band back together and one lady bear. I'm tired of all the lady bears. I hate women. I mean, too many lady bears clogged
so
up the cast.
okay. So the movie follows the five characters that start in the very beginning. And on their
Yeah.
stand, Fred, Ted, Zeb, and Tennessee, there's a small bear cub in the corner looking terrified the entire time they play. The bear cub looks fucking terrified. So I figured maybe they saw that bear cub and was like, well, let's make a movie about the bear cub because it's Disney. We gotta aim it at children. And it'll just be about the bear. The baby bear. But like they could have done that and already had all the bears know each other so you didn't have to go around and try and get them together so you could actually know how they are with each other instead of
I
this
never noticed this.
bullshit.
I looked it up. That baby bear is apparently supposed to be Zeb's son, which honestly would have added a lot of drama to this movie if we'd introduced Zeb having a son.
Zeb has a child and all he does is drink honey all day. Holy shit. Holy shit.
And
You know
Zeb
what?
plays like the jug here, so maybe he got into the honey because he kept drinking all the honey to get the jugs like right in tune. And
I
like the music kind of got him down the path of addiction. And he's got to come to terms with like he loves the band, but the band is what put him in this
Okay, but
position.
that's not
And
gonna
now
be a Disney movie. Already that's a lot better, but that's not a Disney movie.
Is it better though? I think the Disney movie might be fine. I think we might be just perfectly fine and peachy with the Disney movie.
I love the Disney movie. Like I said, this is my favorite movie of all time, but I would like it if like the movie was less journey and more like hanging out.
I I understand I understand that.
I just I don't know. It didn't feel like, first off, I don't feel like you really needed the banker to be the big bad. I feel like if you're going to have a get the band back together plot, all the issues with convincing everyone to jump in would have been enough. Especially since like Ted was the only one who really said no. And like that would have been a great exploration of like the characters and their dynamics together. And I just would have preferred less fucking banker and traveling and more like Well, why did they break up? Why aren't they playing music anymore? What can Barry do to help fix this shit?
I think that is the exact opposite, truthfully. I think I think we don't want to touch this movie. I think this movie came out as well as could possibly be expected from the Country Bears movie. Obviously Christopher Walken is only there to be another celebrity cameo, and only because they have to be as generic as possible, and that means having an obvious bad guy. But like he's only there long enough to like check off the list, like gotta be kind of crazy, gotta be a celebrity,
Gotta be
gotta be
wacky.
gotta be wacky. So we have the John Waters like destroying the house sequence, which is
God damn it.
beautiful.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We have him like with the twist reveal being from like the fifth grade talent contest, which
Which,
is
by the way,
honestly
the Bears don't look younger. And they got a teenager to play a fifth
they have
grader.
looked the same since the 1970s. Those Bears are immortal. That's
I,
the other thing they don't mention. The Bears are also immortal.
the
They
Bears are
expect you to put
immortal
that much
and
in.
they have the map check, the teleportation.
Anyway, so there's very little like walking there. He's just there long enough to be annoying, to be nasty, to be kind of crazy, to have a twist reveal, and then to have one final twist at the end, and then just get carried off. He's perfunctory and funny from point to point, and that is most of what this movie is: perfunctory and funny, and like in service of being kind of like generic and easy to swallow. It accidentally made itself really kind of fun to watch in terms of how like little conflict there actually is. And I think introducing stuff like extended conversations about interpersonal drama, which I know is your jam because you love human beings and like the complexities of human drama and
I
interaction,
am
and
an
like
anthropology major.
your anthro major, your Tumblr past, it's all added together to make someone that likes interpersonal conflict in a way that,
You don't gotta call me out like
I'm
that.
sure I'm sure is a lot of fun to engage with, but frankly, I think is not what this movie about bringing the bear band back together needs to have.
I just wanted, okay, so like if there's one thing, fine, whatever. You have a good point. The movie is perfectly great as it is. Again, it's my favorite movie of all time, and I don't think I've said why. But it is, and I will always defend this movie from critics while also accepting like the legit ones because there are some legit problems with it. I just want Fred and Ted to have more of a conversation. Even if nobody else had one, I wish Fred and Ted had gotten one so that like we could see the parallels between them and Dex and Barry. It would make Dex and Barry's like changing relationship feel like, yeah, you gotta fix the problems while you're young or else they cause problems when you're older. I feel like that would have been a great like side message to have. Forgive me, okay? I want the brothers to sit down and talk with each other. They fucking should
Denied.
though. Um oh
So
man.
we've talked a lot longer than I kind of expected us to. I think the tangents help. I hope people enjoyed this extended discussion about the Country Bears. I'm sorry, the Country Bears. It's not a jamboree because I guess they didn't want us to think too hard about how this doesn't
They're
have
a
much in the way of
country
like
rock band.
classic country and folk music, as was like the norm with the medley that is the Country Bear Jamboree. It's just like more contemporary country rock. Who cares? Don't think about it. Rhodey is married to a chicken.
Oh, you're not ending it on that. Okay,
My
so
thoughts on the movie.
yes.
I give it a unlike Roger Ebert, I enjoyed it.
I
Um
I really expected you to hate this movie. I thought finally I'm going to introduce Noah to something that he won't be able to stand.
I really look forward to you actually presenting something that I find truly unpleasant. I'm quite amicable. I think my favorite review quote about this movie is from Emma Cochran on Empire Magazine, who said, like, the whole quote is like some serious like trashing it, but I'll just pick one selection where she says, "Country Bears hovers between cult video hit and utter rubbish, never being compellingly either." And I will replace the word compellingly with completely. It is somewhere between cult video hit and absolute rubbish, and it's never really either. It is just kind of itself, And if you're the sort of person for whom that sounds like a compelling way to waste time, man, go do it. It's a tight 90 minutes of kind of fun camp.
It's
And maybe you know what that word means, so you could probably like understand what I've been trying to say.
it's a goofy, well-paced movie that is just meant to be sat down and enjoyed and not thought about too
No thoughts
difficult.
whatsoever. Leave your
Um,
brain at the door. Bring a jar of honey.
yes. Um, so as the host, I can't say like my reflection, and usually we do the newbie review last, Noah.
Sorry, I just wanted to like take us into a fun direction, have some fun here. Ah, man.
Um, I still think this movie holds up. It's still my favorite movie of all time. Yes, it has issues. Yes, if there was things that I could change about it, I would change them. But I love this fucking movie.
It is
I
just the right amount of nonsense,
I
which is just a
can
bit too much.
I cannot explain how much I adore this movie, that it is above the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies for me. Like, I cannot explain how much I do. And it's probably a healthy combination of nostalgia, country music adoration, rock music adoration, and like, just find it funny. I usually, like, I didn't find, like, the cops that funny. I didn't find, like, Tennessee's blubbering that funny. I didn't care about his and Trixie's relationship, but everything else was pretty funny. And I think that's why it really held me down. And I realize it sounds like I'm complaining more than, like, complimenting it. But I love this movie, and I don't know why. The more I think about it, the less I should, but I enjoy it
Yeah,
so
yeah,
much.
oh, absolutely. It's not good. It's
It's
definitely not
not good, but
good.
I love it.
It's like, again,
I
if you like this sort of like playing it straight nonsense, yeah, go have fun. You've been listening to this pod for a while, so clearly you've got some patience for this.
so I try to get my little brother to watch this movie with me because he's seen it with me before when we were kids. And he's like, "No, I've seen it once in my life. That's enough." And I'm like, "But Bobby, just sit down and watch it with me." And he's like, and I'm like, "Can you at least guess who my favorite character is?" So he sat there and he watched the opening where they're playing music. He points at a picture of Fred and goes, "It's not that one." Then they're all sitting around the campfire playing their instruments, and he points at Fred and goes, "It's that one, isn't it?" And I'm like, "That's the same fucking guy."
But he was right.
No, he wasn't. Zeb is the best. I love Zeb.
Zeb. You're right. I forgot. Zeb is the best. It is excellent. It is excellent. Zeb isn't married to Elton John though, and that is sort of the one notch against him.
Well,
Uh,
Fred isn't either. That's Ted.
I don't know bear
Holy
names.
shit! We watched this movie twice, and we talked about it for an hour and a half now.
We've watched the movie once. We also watched the Jamboree, which we've also already established does not do a good job of being like audible.
I
Much
thought you
less.
said you watched it twice today.
Hmm?
I thought you said you watched the movie twice today. That's why
No,
I said that.
I just watched it the one time. That was enough for me.
Yeah, that would explain why you wouldn't know the names. They go by
That was
pretty
it.
fast.
One name, one time through was enough. Anyway, if you've been listening to this podcast as long as it would have taken you to watch the Country Bears movie.
That's actually true.
So I hope you have a nice long think about the way you spend your time on this earth. It's finite, you know? I didn't know that. That was scary. Thank
uh,
you so much for listening.
Thank you guys for listening. I do want to end this with a
Yeah.
comment on Twitch, which I know we don't usually do, but this is
Oh, yeah?
hilarious. Our tiger, underline ninja art, which is a real life friend of ours, says Griff the Invisible is my favorite not good movie, unless Surf's Up is also considered not good. And I thought for 5 seconds, Griff the Invisible is my favorite was the end of the sentence, and they were making up a bear that was invisible the whole time.
Yeah, I was thinking too, like, I mean, I can't prove that there aren't invisible bears. We've already established that they're immortal, so anything's possible.
Anything's fucking possible.
I've never heard of Griff the Invisible. I guess this mutual friend of ours will have to send, like, images of this stuff to
Also,
us.
Best joke of the whole movie. Christopher
Mhm.
Walken, evil bad guy lecture, talks about how he was an innocent, good kid. Zeb interrupts, so if you hit me with a chair, because he lost the contest and he just picked up the chair and bang and just fucking hit Zeb over the head with it.
I
Zeb
mean,
hasn't been the same since.
if you had lost to a couple of immortal, inexplicable bear musicians, you would
That
probably
were
have a
in
lot
the
of
same grade as you?
there's a lot of complicated emotions there.
I don't think that gives you a right to hit him over the head with a chair.
Extenuating circumstances. And oh boy. Oh, let's see here. Next week. We have no idea what's coming up next. Actually, I know what's coming up next week. Nothing, because we don't do episodes weekly anymore. We do them bi-weekly. So
But we will be playing a
we will be
game.
playing a game next week. So if you want to come to the Twitch hangout, we'll listen to us chat a bit about a KOTOR. Have fun.
Did you know that that's getting a remaster? Of course,
My
it's right when
brother
I
sent
start
me.
playing that it gets a remaster.
I mean, do you have
Ha!
PS5?
Yeah, I do have a PS5 actually.
What?
My boyfriend has a PS5.
Okay, well, you know, I maybe you'll have to play it twice. Oh boy.
I might have to just to listen to Caden's voice actor talk.
In
He's the
terms of
whiny guy, but still.
in terms of the next episode, if you didn't catch that, the podcast that you've been catching, I'll be hosting something. I don't know. Maybe we'll do our Halloween special next, just to
It's
get it done before.
September.
It's September. Our schedule is so weird, though.
Have a nice night, everybody.
Have a nice night, everybody. I've been Noah. This has been a not Noah.
I've been Tiger Eyes 45. You can't keep introducing or like saying my name at the end like that, I guess. It's not introducing. What's the opposite of that?
Outroducing?
Extraducing? I don't know.
Extraducing. I was until recently a newbie, but now I think that has changed because, well, why has it changed?
Because, Noah, you finally caught the country bears.
Oh, yeah. I finally caught the country bears. And then I suppose that means you also finally caught the country bears jamboree.
I feel like one of us is the clear winner here.
One of us really won today.
Night, everyone.
Have a good night.